Chapter 6. The Secret Ingredient. You have to force yourself out of a comfort zone and really try to figure out what are the key ingredients, the key skill sets, and the key perspectives that are necessary. Steve Case. The Secret Ingredient. Love might make the world go round, but it takes duplication to make our business model go round. Everything you do should be easy to duplicate. One important aspect of being duplicable is being relatable. Being relatable means making it easy for the prospect to see himself following your example. Being relatable is essential for fruitful prospecting. When you first approach Jack, he will immediately begin forming opinions about you and your actions. Your appearance, your words, your behavior, and your demeanor all influence his opinions. Jack's opinions are partially, perhaps mostly, completed by the time you ask your magic question. In his shoes. The key to successful prospecting is this: always keep the other person's perspective in mind. The whole reason you're prospecting to begin with is to expand your team, right? Well, why would the prospect want to be part of your team if he can't picture himself doing what you're doing? He won't. Period. End of discussion. Thus, if you want your prospecting efforts to be fruitful, you must honor the prospect's perspective. Always make it a point to walk a mile in the other person's shoes. This sage advice has two benefits. 1. It ensures that you look at the situation from the prospect's point of view. 2. If he gets angry because you took his shoes, he's now barefoot and you have a mile head start. The list below outlines some fabulous ways to taint the prospect's perspective. The use of these strategies will ensure a botched prospecting attempt. 1. Excessively overdress or underdress. 2. Show too much excitement. 3. Share too much detail. 4. Be too serious or intense. 5. Offer your opportunity too early in the conversation. 6. Focus the conversation on you. 7. Make obvious exaggerations. The ever-present question. When you offer your opportunity to Jack, he will immediately ask himself a question. He asks this question instinctively, automatically, and subconsciously. You won't hear him ask it because he also asks it silently. Here is the question he asks: can I picture myself doing what this person is doing? The question may take on a slightly different form, such as 1. Am I able to do what this person is doing? 2. Am I willing to do what this person is doing? 3. Am I willing to do to others what this person is doing to me? If the answer is yes, the prospect might be interested in accepting your offer of a prospecting tool. If the answer is no, he will definitely not be interested in your offer. To increase your odds, be relatable. Bad news, good news. The bad news is that when you are prospecting a stranger, you typically get only one chance to influence his perspective. The good news is that the influence you exert is completely under your control. All the information in this book boils down to one basic concept: influencing the prospect's perspective in a positive way. Every phrase, philosophy, and principle sports at least one of the following properties, known affectionately as the 3 Cs. 1. Congenial. Simply put, being congenial means that you are friendly. You're respectful, polite, and pleasant. In short, you're likable. If people like you, they will want to be around you. They will be more receptive to your message. They will be more likely to buy from you. Being likable is necessary. Personal development makes it possible. 2. Credible. You are absolutely incredible. Wow! What a compliment! Wouldn't you like to hear that more often? Slow down, turbo. The prefix in means not. When it comes to prospecting, you don't want to be not credible. On the contrary, you want to be very credible. What does being credible have to do with prospecting? Well, if you don't come across as believable, the prospect is not likely to be interested in your offer. A few prospects may recognize that your opportunity is viable even if you aren't. Very few. So, be believable. 3. Concise. One definition of concise is free from elaboration and detail. This is of paramount importance while prospecting. If you are sharing details while you're prospecting, you're saying too much. Instead of being the messenger, you are becoming the message itself, which is a colossally bad idea. You run the risk of saying enough for the prospect to say no, but not enough for him to say yes. Any story worth telling is worth telling properly. Don't sell yours short by trying to regurgitate it in the span of 90 seconds. This brings us to the next law. Fourth law of prospecting: LT is better to use tools than words. What's the secret ingredient? The secret ingredient is surprisingly simple: always keep the prospect's perspective in mind. Don't say anything without first considering how the prospect will perceive your words. Don't do anything without first evaluating how he or she will perceive your actions. A good place to start with your evaluation is to consider how you would feel if Jack prospected you the same way that you are prospecting him. What would you think? How would you look at the experience? In essence, the secret ingredient is another way of expressing the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The difference is that as a professional prospector, you will not only do unto, but you will also speak unto. The golden rule is of no use to you whatever unless you realize it's your move. Frank Crane. When you approach, you are creating an entire experience for the prospect. This experience has within it the potential to change the lives of people you have never met. Moreover, you have the awesome responsibility of constructing this experience all by yourself. You don't have to be the world's best prospector. You just have to be the best you. By adding the secret ingredient to your prospecting recipe, you're light years ahead of most reps. Let's look at some specific examples. The eighth principle, chameleon of many colors, describes how to adapt your style to the style of the prospect. For now, just concentrate on how the prospect will perceive the overall prospecting experience. Speak unto. If you're prospecting an executive, don't ask, "Hey dude, would you like to make some extra money?" Conversely, if you're prospecting the waiter at your favorite restaurant, you shouldn't say, "Have you ever considered the potential leverage of diversifying into multiple passive revenue streams?" These are extreme examples, but they illustrate the absurdity of talking in a way that won't relate to the prospect. Make sure your words relate to the audience. Do unto. If the prospect is soft-spoken and laid back, you need to recognize that he is probably a mild-mannered person in nature. Think about how he will perceive you if you're bouncing around like your hair is on fire, using sweeping hand gestures, and bellowing every word like a megaphone with expired batteries. Be sensitive to his perspective and behave accordingly. Make sure your performance relates to the audience. The U's have it. The secret ingredient mandates that you keep the prospect's perspective in mind. The corollary to this idea is realizing that prospecting is not about you. It doesn't matter how you want to act, how you want to talk, how you want to dress. The fifth law of prospecting is quite clear about this. Fifth law of prospecting: it's not ever, ever, ever about you. Ask not what the prospect can do for you, but what you can do for the prospect. Focus on what your product can do for Jack, not how much commission you'll earn if he buys it. Offer your opportunity to Jack so his wife can be a full-time mom, not so you'll move to the next pin level. The word prospect does not contain the letter I. Don't attempt to add one. As a rule, avoid saying I as you prospect. Instead, focus on the word you. This is almost automatic when you ask questions instead of making statements. In the few times a statement is more appropriate than a question, consider saying we instead of I, such as in the examples below. Instead of this, say this. Instead of, "I have some information you ought to look at," say this: "Are you open to exploring outside opportunities?" Instead of, "I know you're going to like what you see on the DVD," say this: "There's one part that's the most popular. Is a couple of days enough time for you to check it out?" Instead of, "I recommend that you look at this DVD," say this: "If you like what you see, we can sit down and fill in the gaps." Lest you think that the secret ingredient is some ambiguous idea, keep in mind that you are still learning background material. You will discover that when you apply the principles of prospecting, the secret ingredient gets added to the recipe automatically. Keep reading, the aha moments are about to begin.